Hello, kaiju and tokusatsu lovers. This is Nathan Marchand coming to you live here. But I am not alone for this special occasion. I've got several friends here with me, including the man who just dove in within about 10 seconds of going on the air, Mr. Ultra Danny DiManna.
Hello there. I was experiencing, as you do right before big broadcasts, technical difficulties. But we are good to go. And nobody would have noticed if you hadn't said anything.
Oh, well, I was trying to be a little bit funny, okay?
Well, sure. Well, that's why I'm laughing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure. But for those who don't know, not only is Danny here, apparently Ultra Dan, he got upgraded.
Ultra Dan, yes, I upgraded myself.
You've got the perfect name to pun off of stuff like that.
I do. You know, I have the name and I have the tech.
Right.
So I'm set to go.
Right. I'm a little jealous. I need to get myself a beta capsule there. But you're also just so everyone knows, you're the author and creator of the Godzilla Novelization Project. Ultraman is very adjacent, so it's good to be
very much so.
Oh, and look who else just joined us at the last second here. It's Mr. Damon Noyes himself.
What up, Joe? Oh, sorry. Konnichiwa, bitches.
Wow.
There it is.
Getting a little salty in the stream tonight.
Oh, I have got things to say about this particular movie. So yes.
Well, actually, we'll get to the discussion of the film here in a little bit, but we got a special guest we need to talk to first.
Sure.
But speaking of special guests, he is not Michael the Cheater Hamilton here.
Mr. I want to be on every podcast and every episode.
First of all, we're all laughing at that joke. Second of all, this is a family show, damn it, Nathan or Damon. Come on.
I'm sorry if you don't say that word in your family. What kind of family are you?
That is true. It is good. It is good to see you, my friend. You're looking well, Raymond.
Well, let me tell you something.
Yes. Damon, who has been a frequent guest on the show and has also played many of the characters populating MIFV. I'm still working on that's the season finale, Damon, where as far as I care, you need to get a podcast Oscar because you were in character for like 2 hours and it was amazing.
It was 3 hours, but that's okay. Who's counting?
Well, it probably get whittled down to 2. That's what I'm saying.
It was very hard to keep in character and switch characters every 5 seconds. Whenever somebody else
doesn't get old. It doesn't get old. It doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't get old at all. No, not for sure.
No,
not for Kid the Sloth.
Don't be supercilious.
Oh, okay, guys. We have a special guest, and we need to be respectful of his time. But joining us today,
if we have to,
but joining us today, the producer of Ultraman Connection and the CEO of Starlight Runner Entertainment. I am ecstatic to introduce you all to Mr. Jeff Gomez here.
You have to. How you doing, guys?
Nice to see you.
Doing well, Jeff. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Not a problem.
Yeah, this is exciting for me. I mean, you got a hold of me a few months ago. We've been communicating back and forth. I was just flabbergasted to know that you listened to my shows and enjoyed them and wanted to give me some opportunities related to Shin Ultraman specifically. And now I've got you on the show, so this is I'm pumped, man. I'm really pumped. So
fantastic. I'm a fan because it dates back real far with me as far as tokusatsu and Japanese pop culture in general. So, this is stuff I'd be listening to whether or not I was involved with Ultraman.
Right. So I wanted to give you at least a little bit of time here to introduce, for those who don't know you, introduce you to the listeners and our viewers here. I've got several of my patrons in the chat here with us. So let everybody know a bit about your history with tokusatsu. I know it's something that's very near and dear to your heart.
Sure. I'm a little bit older than, well, some of you.
Not all of us. I know Nathan's old as dirt. So
that's funny coming from you,
Jeff.
I'm sure
older than the Grand Canyon and twice as dusty. Nathan,
I'm sure Raymond is older than all of you.
So, as a very young kid, I'm like talking 3 or 4 years old. This is in the 1960s. I was kind of a hypersensitive little kid growing up in a really tough neighborhood and a kind of hard environment. And so my escape was anything to do with cartoons or fantasy or things like that. And that gave me access to things like proto-Japanese anime, Speed Racer, Marine Boy, that kind of stuff, Gigantor, Kimba the White Lion. But nothing lit me up like Godzilla. I'd catch a glimpse of it running on TV and just be astounded at this huge, powerful dinosaur that was just unstoppable. I fell in love with this thing and this notion that it can persist for more than a single movie, that it can be back fighting new monsters and looking slightly different, causing me to try and figure out what the continuity was between the movies was just fascinating for me. In the mid 1970s, I was 11, 12 years old. My mom decided to follow a friend of hers to Hawaii. This is in 1974. And we got on a plane and headed there. I was hesitant at first, but Hawaii was 6,000 miles closer, as far as New York was concerned, to Japan. and the woman's kid told me over the phone, they have Godzilla toys here. And that was just unheard of. The only thing of Godzilla I had was the occasional copy of Famous Monsters of Filmland, right? a magazine, once in a great while. And what I can cut out of the TV Guide, a magazine that told you what was going to be on TV that week. Mm-hmm. And so there would be a picture of Godzilla the size of your thumbnail. And I just collect them in order to have something of Godzilla. So the notion of toys and other kinds of collectibles affiliated with this thing that I loved was just amazing. But then something really special happened. I got to Hawaii, and my friend said, let's play. Let's play Kamen Rider. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he screamed out, Henshin! And then leapt into the swimming pool, kicking me directly into the chest with a Kamen
Rider. A rider kicking you?
A rider kick. I received a rider kick. It really annoyed me, but I needed to know what a Kamen Rider was. and a couple of days later, there it was on TV in Hawaii. They aired very early Japanese Super Sentai tokusatsu TV shows. So a Kamen Rider V3 was running. Mm-hmm. Kikaider 01. These were huge hits. But then an array of others: Rainbow Man, Inazuman, and then all of the Japanese anime. It was just really astounding to me. This notion of being able to change, to do the kata, and and defend yourself against the monster. The fact that these shows took these things seriously. was astounding to me. They were grown up. The violence was kind of real. The stakes were real, but also some of these characters they hunted for their very own souls. There was a sadness to Japanese pop culture that I found fascinating. And of course, in the midst of all of this was Ultra 7. That was the Ultraman that was running at the time in Hawaii. And of course, that was like having a Godzilla movie in your home, once a week. Mm-hmm. Truly remarkable, guys. So the fact that these shows persisted across each other, that there were sequel shows. Kikaider 01 was a sequel series to Kikaider. Kamen Rider V3 came after Kamen Rider, which had Kamen Rider 1 and 2. That there was a connectivity to them, a persistent universe that traversed television shows, but also feature films, music, toys, magazines, comics. This was proto-transmedia storytelling for me, and it helped to shape everything that I've done ever since. Mm.
Wow. You got in on this at the ground floor.
Showa era, man. Showa era.
Man,
it sounds like growing up, like you just had this hunger for tokusatsu that's persisted all this time. And it's interesting to live in the time we live in now, Jeff, that like we're back when we were all growing up, tokusatsu and things, that was very like few and far between. We had a few Godzilla films and whatnot here in the United States, but not to the level that we're getting now. Like it feels like a treat to be able to go to a theater like I did last night and over this week to watch an Ultraman movie.
Imagine how I feel.
Yeah.
I helped to get it in that damn theater.
Right.
And it was a very lonely fandom, in the 70s. Hawaii was one thing, but I was only in Hawaii for, 12 or 18 months and then had to come back to New York where there was nothing. So maybe the odd a comic book convention where a bootleg VHS could be on sale with some episodes, but that was it. So to love something that nobody else knows or understands was tough, and then to bring Ultraman to Lincoln Center. That's where it premiered in the United States. In New York City, one of the most fabulous theaters in the city, maybe in the world, and then to help to usher it into theaters across the entire country, where it's like the number 5 movie of this past week.
I know
all of them. Avatar, a few others, and Ultraman.
Right,
it's just amazing.
Right, that really excites me. That tells me that your efforts with Ultraman Connection and Supro, they're really making some inroads here. And I think people are hungry for good superhero media right now in the United States. And they're getting it with Ultraman.
Yeah. There's a tangible component, I think, to these shows, to tokusatsu. You're looking at that and something in your brain tells you that dude's really there. He's in that suit sweating. When that monster crashes through that building, somebody built that thing and somebody shot it to make it fall apart in a kind of cool way. And after a decade of just a whole bunch of pixels flying around, there's something charming and cool, I think, that people are gravitating to. There's also an innocence and goodness in these heroes, an earnestness that speaks back at the cynicism and the snarkiness of Western superhero content.
That's for sure. So, is there anything else you'd like to tell us about your, origin story, or can we move into talking about Ultraman Connection?
Well, the bridge between all that and Ultraman essentially was that I would be back enjoying Western pop culture. I'd be dissatisfied with a few things about what I was watching on TV. I just couldn't stand the reset button, right? You watched an hour-long cool drama, and the next hour happens as if the previous hour never happened, right? And it just would cycle over and over. Same with the cartoons and so forth. And then when there would be the equivalent of a franchise where there'd be more than one movie featuring the same characters and so forth, again, they didn't seem to grow into a rich universe, a story world that had integrity and continuity and forward momentum to it. It was just kind of the same characters in a different adventure, with information that sometimes contradicted what happened before because the writers didn't really care and so forth. And that bugged the crap out of me. The Marvel comics universe and to a degree DC, they tried to do that, and that was kind of cool, I thought. So in joining Valiant Comics, as a kind of assistant editor in the early 1990s.
Really?
I started to push for that kind of continuity, particularly after the company was acquired by Acclaim Entertainment. Do you remember Acclaim?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm very familiar. I'm an avid comic book reader, so what you're talking about, I know about.
There you go. So I edited the Valiant comics, Bloodshot, Shadow Man, Time Walker, all that stuff.
That's
but
amazing.
I had my eye on. I loved role playing games and adventure games, and I told my boss, there's this thing called Magic the Gathering, and it's how I know it's going to be a big hit, because it's already annoying school teachers.
It is a good barometer, I would say.
It is.
Yeah. I was a school teacher for a short period of time.
Oh, were you?
Well, I knew about gadgets, gizmos, and cards in schools. And I said, this is it, guys. Let me go after that license. And they said, well, here's $300 and a plane ticket. Go get Magic the Gathering.
$300 won't even get you half a tank of gas nowadays.
It got me some artwork, a little bit of a production artwork, how we'd imagine Magic would look as comics. And I hit them at just the point in time where they wanted to create things like comic books and video games and things like that. So we got the license, and I created a persistent universe, Dominaria, that connected all the cards together into a single story world. Wow. So in a way, I fulfilled my childhood wish of creating a persistent transmedia story world, because there were comics. I produced and wrote video games based on Magic, and eventually created some cards for WotC, and even something called a website, which was unheard of. I had so much lore that I'd created for this world. I said, "What am I going to do with all of this?" And an intern said, "Why don't you put it on a website?" And I said, "What's that?"
What's that? Yeah.
And we did, and so that launched my career. I wrote and produced Turok Dinosaur Hunter for the Nintendo 64, and then a series of video games after that. And those two big hits made me independent and allowed me to start my own company, Starlight Runner Entertainment.
Wow.
So Starlight Runner took this notion of a transmedia universe, a multi-platform story world. And we brought it to Mattel, and we did this with Hot Wheels, World Race, and Highway 35. We did it with Pirates of the Caribbean for the Walt Disney Company. We did it for Halo and Microsoft, creating these gigantic franchise extensions, how this story would work in novels and comics and video game sequels and prequels and cycles and all that sort of thing. And each time there'd be a big bang in my career, what I would say is, hey, Toye, hey, Subaraya Production, I sure would like to work Toho. I sure would like to work with my favorite things in the universe. And
Wouldn't we all?
Ask and ye shall receive. There was a Danny Simon, the president of the CEO of the licensing group, a group based in Los Angeles, grabbed this new thing called Ultraman. It actually wasn't new. It was in quiet mode for decades, and that's because of a legal entanglement with a company. It was just dreadful, that situation. But Subaraya won. And so they approached Danny Simon, the god of licensing, to help them introduce Ultraman to the American market. So out of nowhere, he calls me and says, Gomez, what's an Ultraman? What do you do?
A question you've been waiting to hear for years and years.
Is he wearing a costume? Where's the zipper?
Oh boy.
Does he eat?
And if he does, what does he eat?
Danny, I think I better get over to Los Angeles and have a talk with you. And once there, I said, Danny, I think you need to take me to Japan. And then let me have a talk with these guys. And we did, and that started my conversation with Subaraya Productions.
Yeah, so when was this?
This was about 3 years ago.
3 years ago. Okay.
2018, 2019.
Okay.
And then Ultraman Galaxy, the first website, was like 2019. Yeah, 2019. And then in 2020, I teamed up with a group called Elevate, and we formed an alliance called Iceberg Theory, which put on virtual events because of COVID. And they were so good that I told the Subaraya guys, hey, let's create virtual events for Ultraman so that I can introduce the fan base, because there are people like you here in the United States that would love to see those live shows. Do you remember the?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I
got to go to one in Japan in 2016 for the 50th anniversary for Ultrafest. And there you go. There's just nothing cooler than being that close to these heroes, tangibly there.
Mind-blowing.
Magical. It was mind-blowing.
Truly,
it was
truly magical.
I had to pinch myself.
And those the suits are just magnificent.
They're works of art.
The detail and the fact that they're prepared to be beat up and thrown on the floor, and it's just it's amazing.
Oh yeah.
So I said, let's show that here through these virtual events, and Subaraya took a chance. And the first event generated like 300 ticket sales, and now we get thousands, tens of thousands to these events, and that helped to grow the fan base. That and the fact that I asked Subaraya, let me talk to you, let me go on podcasts, let me express my love for this to people who love the stuff. and they will see how genuine and authentic all of this really is, and they'll team with us. They'll become apostles.
Ultraman and his 12 apostles.
All it takes, right?
Ultra apostles.
With a few hundred, and now we have there's a couple million.
Yeah.
So we're all ultragelicals.
Ultragelicals.
Is that how we work out? I don't know.
I think it is now.
Follow the Lord Evangelist. Ultravangelist. There we go.
Ultravangelist. Okay, I was going to say hashtag ultragelicals.
We follow the Lords of Light. That is all there is to it.
Oh my gosh.
So was that the forerunner to Ultraman Connection?
That was a forerunner to Ultraman Connection. Once the Tsuburaya saw how well Iceberg Theory handled the entire franchise and its interpretation here in the West, because there were some things that we needed to explain. There are some eccentricities to this property.
I was going to say, it's like one of those things when someone asks me, it's like, what the heck? So what's Ultraman? I basically say, how much time do you have?
There you go. So they loved how we did that and said, let's evolve Ultraman Galaxy into Ultraman Connection and use it as a hub, a base of operations. And we just kept cajoling them for content, and so when you become a member of Ultraman Connection, which is free, you get access to all of these exclusive videos, entire seasons of Ultraman, whole series, but also a lot of cool stuff that is exclusive to the site. Like Sevenger Fight, where these short films where our hero Sevenger takes on Ella King and some other kaiju. Oh my gosh, that was awesome. A little painful around the neck. But just so much fun stuff, and then they started bringing Ultraman himself to the United States at conventions like Anime Expo in Los Angeles and New York Comic Con this past fall. Just so incredible, and I got to meet them and be with the suit actors and every dream you could have about that sort of thing fulfilled.
The picture from that event where Ultraman is drop kicking the kaiju was just meme gold on the internet for a couple of days.
That photo was taken by the noob, Evangelia Artemis, who is my daughter. So the noob who talks about Ultraman as if she just walked through the door and you threw her Ultraman at her is family. And her columns are really popular because that gives an entrance way to new people because of the way she explains things and her perceptions of the property.
So what you're saying is that Ultraman Connection basically serves as I guess you could say the hub for the English language. If I'm understanding the English language Ultraman fandom.
The site posits itself in multiple languages.
Okay.
And all of the content on it is you can choose all kinds of different subtitles.
Oh, that's great.
Honestly, guys, I'm a believer, and I'm not going to stop until this franchise is worldwide. Everyone,
nor should you. You should keep going.
Have access to it. And there's a reason, honestly, guys. The essence of Ultraman is courage, hope, and kindness. Here's a guy who comes to our world not to beat up bad guys, not to arrest people, but to show us that we can be better. He's going to wait for a while. Have you noticed? He'll wait until we've thrown everything we've got to try and solve the problem. And at the last minute, he'll go, all right, guys, I'll take it from here. But get stronger, be more noble, understand why this thing is here. Mm-hmm. Do you see? Because some of it is your fault.
Right? You made this mess.
That's the implied, issue here, and it's in Shin Ultraman in spades, right? Mm-hmm. So that's cool, because what he's asking us is to rise ourselves, and he's going to hang around long enough for us to get up a few rungs, and then he's splitting. Mm-hmm. Series over. Uh-huh. And to me, that's really unique. Mm-hmm. A lot of people say, "Oh, what's the difference between Ultraman and Voltron or Transformers or Power Rangers?" A lot. And that,
you hear that a lot.
That's what that's why I'm a believer in what it has to say and want the world to enjoy this content.
Right. And you guys have been doing doing the Lord's work. Where you're doing all of this, you guys have been the place to go to for, say, like the premiere of was it Episode Z, the Ultraman Trigger / Ultraman Z crossover movie. And you're at the forefront of all of the latest Ultraman news. It's gotten to the point now where it's like, if I hear stuff about Ultraman, I'm like, if it's not on Ultraman Connection, I question its validity.
I get that a lot on Twitter. Is this real? And sometimes it is, but it's got scooped somehow, like something leaked. And I'm like, oh.
Time to call the bloggers. Why aren't you doing your job?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely. It's become quite an authority. And this coming year, we're going to do a lot more behind the scenes stuff.
Okay.
And, give new insights. I believe they're going to let us communicate a little bit of the unified field theory of Ultraman. Ooh. How does they don't like to use the word multiverse, but how do these various dimensions operate? What's the meaning of all this? Where is it going? What is the transmedia universe of Ultraman really like?
That sounds amazing.
That's exciting.
It is exciting. I think you've like all those little questions I had in my outline about Ultraman Connection. I think you have thoroughly answered all of those, sir.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, how you're helping the franchise to break into the international market. What is Ultraman Connection? When did it start? Where is it? You got the website. Who else is helping you with Ultraman Connection? Let's ask that.
Ultraman Connection is the two companies, Elevate and Starlight Runner Entertainment, teamed up. Together, we are Iceberg Theory.
Okay.
And we have partners like the licensing group, which helps us with our coverage of anything to do with international or American Ultraman product, and of course Subaraya Productions is a huge a partner and support. All our licensees, including Marvel Comics, which if you haven't looked at the Marvel Ultraman comic books and you're any kind of comic book fan, do check them out. They're fantastic.
I've been collecting those. Yeah.
A great, a unique take, and one that comments in interesting ways on it. In a way, I feel my fingerprints are most evident there. Because you'll see that they bend toward my favorite aspects of the, of the franchise.
Yeah, and I'm guessing you also have some pretty close ties with Mill Creek and Shout Factory, since they're handling a lot of the distribution of the series.
Sure. In fact, Shout Factory's annual Ultraman Day Tokushoutsu show, I produce it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, definitely. And those Mill Creek packages are awesome. They're really good.
Oh yeah. I've gotten basically all of them. Just waiting on Max. Max is coming soon.
Oh yeah.
I'm a little behind, admittedly. But I'm catching up.
There you go. Yeah, I know. They came out fast and furious. I was surprised.
I mean, they started in 2019, and now they've got, I'm going to say probably 90% of everything on home video.
Which
for the
is
first
what they
time.
promised. It was so nuts when that happened, too, because I remember the ink was, it wasn't even dry. They had barely signed all of the legal documentation with Chayo and that whole lawsuit thing, and then suddenly it's like, hey, guess what, everybody? You're getting everything.
It was definitely a hold our beer moment, or I guess hold our sake.
Yeah, hold our sake.
It was like a dam burst. It was you want 50 years. 50 years.
You want content? We'll give you content. Here's content.
And by the way, guys, logistically complex.
Oh God, yeah.
The subtitles had to all be checked. We had to very rapidly assemble log lines for every single episode, and there's like 1,000, more. And so we were the ones who reviewed at Starlight Runner every single episode of Ultraman, starting with the first of Ultra Q, and writing up these things. Not only did we do that, we listed every weapon, vehicle, kaiju, and main character in every single episode.
And I love booklets with stats like that in them. So that when getting that was just icing on the cake. That kind of stuff just makes a home media presentation that much more special, and not a lot of sets do that anymore. So that's every time I open up one of those sets and it has a nice booklet in it and it's got pictures of the monsters and episode guides and all that stuff. I eat that stuff up like Tic Tac. So
same here.
And speaking as a podcaster, I just every time a new set comes out, I'm like, man, so much podcasting material, so much. It's not just Ultraman, just like the last I would say about 4 or 5 years, it just felt like an overabundance of riches of Tokusatsu because more stuff just keeps coming over here. It's so exciting. You had Arrow Video releasing their massive Gamera set, more Super Sentai's started coming over, and all of the Ultraman stuff. I mean, I've been joking that Super Raya is practically Tokusatsu Santa Claus. They're just like, sure, just have it.
Well, let's not take anything away from SRS Studios either. I mean,
no. I mean,
pumping
there's
out
just so much.
the fan movies, and that was the big thing when I was a kid. Is you would see these fan movies like start with the original Hardware Wars when that came out.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
So you see fans making their own tokusatsu, and it's not bad.
That's right.
It's just one step below what Tsuburaya was doing back in Showa era.
It's all part of the genre, and every aspect of this. I will die on this hill that every corner of this genre is worth supporting. And when it comes to the United States, that is a rare and beautiful gift, especially the more obscure it is.
Right.
And the more of it comes across, the less obscure it is.
A tricky thing to maneuver with Tsuburaya Productions is fan enthusiasm and fan labor, fan content. They're very protective, of course, and should be because of the conflicts that they were in, and yet we're trying to get them to encourage fan creative expression and allow for it simply because it's such a communication of affection,
right?
And, and it helps to broadcast the property.
Right. I mean, you've been doing so much. I feel like we owe you, Jeff, more than I originally thought we did. Just how much you have helped to make this possible, and maintaining such a good relationship with Tsuburaya. I can't thank you enough.
They would have found someone, but maybe not someone who,
I think maybe not someone who cared as much as you, Jeff. Is that what
I think they found the perfect guy, Jeff. I think
they really
you don't have
did.
to be that humble here. Like
Right.
Personal passion that you have for the product is just
they could have handed it off to somebody in a suit that could have said, well, this thing from Japan might make us a quick buck, and they could have shoveled it out. But they went with somebody who was touched by this as a child. They went with somebody who got this and who actively wants to be a part of spreading the joy of Ultraman. So that was, I mean, it's a wonderful thing when companies make those decisions, where it's like, well, this person gets it and we should have them on board.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say when we were talking about when you were talking about Mill Creek just now. It felt like it just the Mill Creek sets have just not felt like cash grabs.
That's right.
Like just something that the Americans will buy it because they, there's a fan base over here, but they feel like they've been produced and put together by people who actually care. And we as fans
on Mill Creek's side, there were a couple of guys there that really did care as well.
Yeah.
So it's not just us, but yes.
Right. Right. No, and we as fans can see that, and we can sense that we can sense when distributors or whomever is handling a property really cares about that property. Absolutely. And then we can sense when they don't care about that property. It's either a cash grab or it's just this thing that they own and they don't know what to do with it. And we've seen that before.
Yeah.
So, guys, this coming year will really be the test. The first test was this week, where Shin did well enough for Subaraya to go, oh, that's not bad.
I mean, do you happen to know like what their are they like just ecstatic over there right now with the results for this thing?
The Japanese are stoic people.
I'm using the word ecstatic in air quotes,
but I think there is satisfaction.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm so glad to hear that.
But in the coming year, you're going to have the third season of Anime Ultraman on Netflix.
I'm looking forward to that.
You're going to have a number of anniversaries for the older Ultra heroes, and coming up there is a massive animated feature film of Ultraman for Netflix, created by Lucasfilm, Industrial Light and Magic, and guys, it's stunning in terms of. Is it pure Ultraman? No. It's an American vision of Ultraman. But the fact that this is Industrial Light and Magic, not Lucasfilm Animation, they make the Clone Wars and Bad Batch and stuff. This is their special effects division, ILM, using their feature film capabilities to create an animated Ultraman feature. It's really stunning to look at. It skews a little young, but it's still quite striking.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting.
I think skewing young is an excellent idea, because it's the more you can get this stuff in. I love to sit and watch this stuff in its original language, but if you have a little one who wants to get into Ultraman, that's the thing. You do an animated film like this, and the audience gets younger, and you can get more people in on the ground floor, just like what happened in the 60s and when it was syndicated in the 70s, the original Ultraman. Get it in English, which is why I'm loving the dubbing that's happening right now as well. For a lot of stuff, a lot of the movies. There are people out there who are like, blah, who are always going to, turn their nose up at dubs, but it makes no sense to me, because how are you supposed to grow a fan base without multiple languages? How are you supposed to get little kids who aren't going to sit there and read subtitles into Ultraman? How are you going to create the new generation of fans? You got to do dubs. And the dub for Shin Ultraman, this is slightly off topic, was so good.
Well, I do want to get to that.
Yeah. We'll get to that. I don't want to veer us off course, but I did want to mention.
And before we do get to Shin, here's what I want. My bucket list for Ultraman: more of of these, you know.
Oh, yes.
Listen to this.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Oh,
Man, I
Want
missed
to
that
do
on
it.
Scavenger. But
God, that's
Yeah.
More
So
more toys, more
I want
toys, more toys.
Ultraman there. I want an American version of all those toys.
I definitely
nice.
am picking up their Tiga. Seismic's Tiga. That
Oh,
looks
when
amazing.
when that Tiga happens, I have the Giros over there. I do not have Scavenger. I have my beta capsule. When I was in Japan, I got a set of Ultra Eyes, Ultra 7 Ultra Eyes.
Oh, I have them too.
I love it. I love it so much. And but the more that stuff becomes available in, like, you can go into Barnes and Noble and Walmart right now and buy Ultraman Funko Pops and Mego toys, and
very good.
It's like, pinch me. This is amazing.
Right,
like,
right. You got something to show off there, Michael?
I do, yeah. Since we're showing off a little bit, this is probably my, if you can
It's
see.
invisible.
That's fantastic. I love that.
Hang on, let me turn my virtual background off here just really quick. There we go.
You go.
This is my prized possession. What makes this so special is it was signed by Furuya-san at All Monsters Attack in Indianapolis, and this will stay in the bag. This will never come out of the bag.
That's the conundrum I face every time.
It's a struggle. It's a struggle.
I could get to, but then I'd have to deal with things like marriage.
Right, exactly. See, that is when I was a married man, that was one thing there was a little issue that I ran into when I would collect things, and my ex-wife didn't quite understand the appeal. But now, that is one of the best parts of this franchise, is not just watching the movies, not just experiencing the media that you guys produce, but also having the tangible things that we can have in our homes, and we can love them and we can cherish them.
Made at the highest level of quality.
Yeah, exactly.
Tamashii Nations, SH Figure Arts, that changey thing, it's just a
changey thing. That needs to become an official term for somebody's transformation device.
Changey
thing.
That weighs like 5 pounds, doesn't it?
This thing is hefty. If I threw this at a person, it would kill them.
It's like a Nokia phone. So
it's a murder weapon. It does not have that.
It's indestructible.
I took the batteries out of it because I didn't want them to like randomly explode. And I did not have time to put the batteries back in before the stream, but it makes the sounds
and the light.
It lights up. I mean, this thing, and it was not cheap, but I had to have one. It feels like the real deal. And there's something about holding something from one of these things that you love, whether it be a monster toy that you can turn around in your hands and appreciate the sculpt, or something that's based on an artifact. I love collectibles that are kind of artifacts, and the fact that
role play items.
Like this is Hayata's thing, man. This is Hayata's beta capsule right here. I mean, there's very little separation between this and the real deal.
When you put that amount of detail and care into the product, it's communicating to me, even as a child, that you respect me. Mm-hmm. You didn't create this malformed lump of plastic that vaguely looks like the movie.
Yeah, it's like the difference between this and the Star Trek helmet they released in the 60s. That was just a lamp that made us with a siren on top. Yeah, like it wasn't even. They just grabbed a random toy and there was.
You
Star
don't
Trek.
Respect me, Mr. Star Trek licensee.
That's not even just no. That's not even no respect or like median level. That's active disrespect. That's insulting the intelligence of children.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's pretending like we're stupid.
Because kids listen. Kids are not stupid.
No, they know their fandom.
They know.
Yes. Yeah, they are in touch with it intimately, and especially parents who say, "Oh, this is kind of like that. They'll like this too." No, you won't. We won't.
No. We have Star Trek at home.
We have Star Trek at home. All right. Well, like I said, I want to be. Okay. Well, like I said, I want to be respectful of your time, sir. So I did have a few questions I wanted to ask you about bringing Shin Ultraman over to the States, because there was a long stretch of time where we're like, we know the movie's coming. We're expecting it to get over here, but we have no idea how or when. We had so many questions. And it sounds like, I'm guessing we have you and Ultraman connection to think about this. So how long, when did you start talking with Tsuburaya to get the film over here?
Well, when we were negotiating our deal with Tsuburaya at the very beginning, it was entering into production. So, it was just something that we knew was being created by one of the great Japanese filmmakers, and that a good lot of money was being put into it, and that it was exclusively for Japan. In fact, the discussion was, let's not talk about Shin Ultraman because we don't want to mix up the business with what's going on with Netflix and establishing a kind of American presence for Ultraman. Mm-hmm. So we let it go, but I'd get a little peek every once in a while. And I'd start asking questions like, how am I going to see this movie?
How am I going to see this movie?
Yeah. Do I have to fly there or what? And they said, eyes on the prize, ignore that dude behind the curtain. and as it became clear that that they were putting even more time and money and care into the production because COVID postponed the release in Japan, and they decided to actually work a little bit more on the special effects and things like that. We really all started to get excited and started to talk with Iceberg, started to talk with the licensing group about what it would take to bring Shin Ultraman to movie theaters theatrically, especially when you saw stuff like Dragon Ball Z and One Piece and so forth doing
Demon
so
Slayer.
well. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There you go. Of course, Demon Slayer was just through the roof. So they let us start talking with them about it. And the hunt was on for somebody who could help us to secure the best possible deal with Shin Ultraman. And what was interesting, this gentleman who goes by the name DK was highly experienced with a specialty distribution in the United States, and he said, the groundwork should be laid because we want the film to be treated seriously. It's not just a children's film. It's a serious film. Let's show it to film festivals, not just in the United States, but around the world. And
right.
you even talked about this in a previous episode, the fact that it premiered in Canada, it premiered overseas, and then at Lincoln Center in the United States, at the Asian International Film Festival, and it got cred. It got great reviews, standing ovations, sold out crowds, and that's what turned Fathom onto Shin Ultraman.
Yeah, I was about to ask if because you went with a company called The Exchange, which I had never heard of until the news was published about about them releasing Shin Ultraman through Fathom Events. So I was going to ask you, who is The Exchange? Why were they interested? Were they the ones that connected with Fathom? I mean, how did this whole thing go down?
There were a number of distributors that pick up rights, but don't necessarily, do the work of booking movie theaters and doing all the things that Fathom does. So The Exchange was a rights issue situation, and then Fathom does the boots on the ground a kind of distribution. And then the Blu-ray DVD is even another company.
Cleopatra.
That's right, Cleopatra.
Yeah. So was the Exchange the first one to talk with you or Tsuburaya, or was it Fathom? I mean,
it was the Exchange first.
Okay, it's the Exchange first. Okay.
Yeah, we talked with a number of great candidates, some of whom were really passionate about Ultraman. We went with Fathom because they really had a cool marketing plan.
Yeah, they've done a lot of work with a lot of anime films in particular, bringing them over here and showcasing them. Fathom has a lot of clout, and they have a large network.
Yes.
Yeah, and Toho. Yeah, and they have a large network. I found out that because here in Fort Wayne, Indiana, there were actually 2 theaters that did the screenings for Shin Ultraman, and I think it was about 1,000 theaters total, right?
That's
1,000 screens across the country, which is pretty impressive.
It is.
Yeah, it's very impressive. So, I'm really glad to hear that. So, and that it was successful and everyone's pretty happy. So now, kind of the $1 million question here is we're all wanting to know who did the subtitles and the dub for this thing.
Yeah.
Because I saw I think it was the same subtitles when I saw it in Chicago at the film festival. But I'm really curious about the dub. I had no idea that a dub was even being made. I think when more of the Fathom event theaters were announced about a month ago.
That's right. So here's the thing. I was not a big fan of some earlier Ultraman dubs.
Oh, yeah, we probably agree with you.
So I nudged them. I said, guys, it really matters. And here's why it matters. It's because of little kids, and yet I don't want to sit next to a little kid and watch something that, is just not right, is not doing the translation well, or is not professionally acting, and there is a little bit of a difference between anime and live action. And yes. I want that subtlety to come across. In the dub. I was not responsible for the hunt to find the dub group, but once we came upon them, it's Okratron 5000.
Oh, okay.
Okratron 5000. The dub director was Raleigh Picklins, and the actors were all professional actors.
Do they do voice work?
Of course, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Some of them did, but not a lot were known in anime.
Okay.
We profile all of the major voice actors on Ultraman Connection. Recently, we put up an article about who they are and how they feel about the work that they did on Shin. And we were very pleasantly surprised. In fact, I'm hoping that we can do some more work with them.
Okay, yeah, that's really exciting because I can tell you, because I think all of us, who did everyone here see the dub of the movie? I know Danny, Michael, and I did. Did you see the dub?
I saw the dub. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw both. I went and saw the dub the next day.
Yeah. Damon, did you see?
Unfortunately, I did not.
Okay.
But I do have access to see it at home.
Okay.
So I will be watching that soon.
Okay, that's good to hear. But I was going to say, one of the things that I personally really appreciated, one of the most notable differences I saw between this and, say, its pseudo-prequel Shin Godzilla, was that when Funimation did their dub for it, the quality of the dub was not necessarily bad, but these were all anime actors, and they were performing as if this was anime, and those kind of intangible nuances that I was picking up on just didn't resonate with me, because I'm like, this feels like it should be coming from an anime, but this isn't animated. But with Shin Ultraman, that wasn't the issue. They weren't performing as if this was an anime, even though it's very much styled a bit like anime.
Right. There's nuance to it, and even distinguishing the the three antagonists, from one another required a degree of subtlety, so that they could build upon one another.
I can tell you right now that Shin Mephiles has become a little bit of a meme magnet with one of my favorite sayings or one of my least favorite sayings within about 24 hours of the dub showing that was happening.
I noticed that. That's cool.
I probably contributed to a lot of it.
I was telling you off cast, Jeff, I was really impressed by the dub. Yes. I usually when things get redubbed, you don't know what you're walking into. Sometimes I felt that way with Shin Godzilla, but I was very impressed by the dub. In fact, I was telling Danny and Nate almost immediately after I saw the film, it actually made the humor in the film land a little better for me. I audibly laughed a lot more with the dubbing than I did with the subtitle version. And it wasn't ironic laughter. It was actually legitimate laughter because the delivery was good.
Right. It's hard in a subtitle to catch the fact that so much of these lines are just almost like tossed off, or muttered under their breath, or so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Show me some spirit.
Yeah. I've made some defenses of dubbing. I do think it's an art form that should be respected more than it is. In fact, back in the 50s, if you dubbed a foreign film, it was actually considered a sign of respect. Not a grave insult. It was a sign of respect because it cost a lot more money to dub a film than it did subtitles. Just the problem is that there's just been so many bad dubs that it's become a joke now that no one takes it seriously.
Well, George Takei talked about that in his autobiography. He did. Was it Rodan?
He did Rodan and
Gigantus.
And he said he looked at it. This was an acting gig, and these people were making art in their own country. Why would I do less than do justice to what they have done? And so
George gets it.
I know.
George gets it.
Yeah, and so he understood. I mean, it's also, from his own culture, but, since he grew up here, a little bit removed, but he understood the mindset that his dubbing performance is just as important as the actor's original performance. And he had to give his respect to their performance by doing the same thing. And I appreciate that.
Right.
And dubbing is such a thankless job anyway. I mean, it's just, it really is too bad because there's so much legitimate work that goes into trying to make a dub work, because you're not just throwing words out there. You're trying to match the breaths of the actors, and you're trying to match the syllables and the way that the mouths form vowels, and you're trying to at least get it to match up a little bit so that it's not too visually distracting. And you're trying to get a good performance out of it.
Right.
And it's like all of this stuff. So, and the fact that dubbing is kind of it's the infamous butt of jokes, especially when it comes to Japanese cinema, and even more particularly than that, Japanese monster movies and such.
It's too Japanese bad. Monster movies and Hong Kong martial arts films. That's where a lot of the jokes are.
Kung fu movies. Some of those dubs are like, I don't know. I love a good silly dub, but I really respect a dub that they took the time. The Tetra dubs for the Godzilla films from the 60s are an example of really solid dubs. Godzilla versus the Thing, those versions of movies like that, Son of Godzilla and the like, those were good. And I think, honest to goodness, the Shin Ultraman dub, it's up there with one of the better Japanese dubbed films. Easily. I was very, very, very impressed with it. I was all I could think was, now a family can watch this together. And maybe a little 4 or 5 year old can. I love that. I love that so much. That's important.
Right.
Yeah. I was pleasantly surprised when I walked into my theater and I was not the only person in there. There was at least 30 people in there with me. when I went to my showing, there was a lot more people, and I feel like my market here, I'm in West Virginia, so I feel like the Charleston area is a much smaller market than say even Fort Wayne or even where Danny's at in Ohio. So I was pleasantly surprised by how many people were actually in there.
Great.
Right.
Yeah, I drove out to the Maumee area to do mine. Actually, the picture of my ticket stub is on Ultraman Connection right now in the article.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
That was a really lovely.
I went and scrubbed it from the internet.
As long as you gave proper attribution, that's fine.
No. It's all.
Danny, you need royalties.
Pay up, Jeff. Come on. No,
just buy him Ultraman Max, and he'll call, and you'll be his new best friend.
That was a genuinely lovely thing to wake up to see that on there. So thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that a lot. But I think there might have been more. The reason I brought that up even was because when I went the second time, I think there might have been more people in my theater for the dub than there were for the. Yeah, probably not by a lot, but there were more there, and that to me showed me everything I know about why the dub is important.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, and the age range was a little wider too.
Good.
Right. So. We talked a little bit about Cleopatra releasing it. Is there anything you can tell us about the home media release? I know it's supposed to be sometime in spring. Is it going to be available on streaming?
Only that it's a DVD Blu-ray. It should be sometime toward the middle of the year.
Okay.
I think it may stream first.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Okay. The streamer has not been announced yet.
Okay.
But it's a good one.
Okay. I was going to say, I know it played, I know it was released on Amazon Prime in Japan.
That's right.
So, I mean, it doesn't have to be Amazon Prime over here. But
no, it doesn't have to be. Yeah. So, so that's being nailed down right now. And then there will be a nice package, a DVD Blu-ray. I'd love a 4K, but I'm not sure that that's going to happen.
Right.
That would be cool.
Do you think... do you know if it'll stream on, I don't know, like a network that has flicks, like a net of flicks?
Stop digging, man. Stop digging.
He's been so generous.
I'm just digging.
You're seriously digging.
I'm just digging. I'm digging.
Elitist to me, who would like everything all under the same umbrella.
Right.
Mind.
No, it's fair. That is fair.
Michael, legal documents, you have been wrong.
You got to stop that.
So, I mean, do you have any details about the release? Will there be special features? Or?
No. There'll be some cool features.
Okay.
They did a lot, both in terms of the making of and in terms of the stuff that they've been putting out to publicize the stuff that's in movie theaters that played with it.
That'd be great. Is it going to be sold at most retail outlets, Best Buys, Walmarts, all that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we won't have to go digging through Amazon to find it or anything. So we can walk into a store and get it. That's great.
Yeah, it's not like Shin Godzilla where you had to really dig for that one for some reason.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I think it sold at Best Buy. That's it.
Yeah. For a little bit. Yeah. I remember when I walked into a Walmart and found it, like, oh my gosh, it's here.
There it is. I cannot wait.
It's a rare sighting of a Shin Godzilla Blu-ray in the wild.
I cannot wait for that disc. I cannot wait.
I can't wait either.
I'm very excited.
Yeah, because I've already covered it on Henshin Men, talking about seeing it in Chicago. I'm doing a little special report here for the Film Vault going out as a bonus episode, but as soon as I saw the movie, I added Shin Ultraman to my slate of movies to give the full Monster Island Film Vault treatment at some point in the future. So that Blu-ray is probably going to be cited constantly because I do lots of research on every movie I cover. So I'm really excited.
So, guys, I know you're going to be talking about the details of the film. And I want to leave you with some thoughts that I'd ask you to consider when discussing it. Because I got to sit down with Shinji Higuchi and talk to him about the film at some length. And not all of these thoughts are his. He actually does not like to interpret his work. But the impression I got from him and from watching the film a few times now is that there is a childlike notion to the film, even though it's made in a very kind of mature way. In fact, you can catch glimpses of French New Wave filmmaking in it and so forth. The artsiness of the shots and so forth, and the way that the music plays, and the fact that they preserved all those sound effects from the Showa era. Right?
I love it.
But there's something to it that reminds me of a parable. When you, I don't know if any of you are familiar with The Little Prince.
Yes.
That was a story about a boy who encounters these kind of escalating different antagonists, these other civilizations that have their interpretations of the world and their desires of it, and they were selfish. They were about conquest, and there's almost a sadness as to how quickly civilization kind of caves to all that. In subtly different but escalating ways. And every time we transcend it with a little help from our hero, right? It makes the greater cosmology, the greater powers that be, a little more concerned, right? Look at the potential of these people. It's so fantastic. And yet they fall for the bullshit. Dangerous. Which is why what happens in the end kind of happens, and why the fact that our hero Ultraman, who has become intimate with us and understands us, is willing. The fact that he's willing to stand for us is, under what seems like impossible odds, is touching to me, and makes the strange structure of the film kind of work for me.
That
you see what I'm saying?
I do. Yeah.
What?
Do you see what I'm saying about?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. I thought someone was. I thought.
Oh
someone
no,
was trying to show
I'm sitting
something
here
off.
writing down notes as you're talking, Jeff, just to use later. I want to be able to sound. I want to be able to sound smart later on in the stream. So I just
think of the motivations of those antagonists, the aliens. The kaiju are pure,
right,
aggression, instinct. But the aliens, as we climb up the ladder, they're orders of magnitude more threatening, and that's why they're there in the order that they're there.
Well, I think it was pointed out in the middle in the last quarter of the film that the kaiju were essentially just tools to draw Ultraman out. The Shin Mephiles was the one that revealed that he was the one behind the kaiju attacks to draw those kaiju out, to draw Ultraman out. But it's a beautiful film. Like I was telling these guys last night that, obviously the theme of the film is hope, hope and resilience.
Yeah.
And hope made tangible by actions and sacrifice. So
there's something about the tangibility of Ultraman as a character too, that's always really resonated with me, because yes, there's hope and resilience and that tangibility of it. And, for this film, since it's a little bit outside that box, not thematically, and thematically it's very in the box, but the fact that, Eiji Tsuburaya, Tsuburaya proper, when he created this character was so like all these years later, the idea of having a physical hero that a child can walk up to and shake their hand or get a hug from is a powerful thing. And there's like, that's one of the things that always touches me the most about Ultraman, especially when I went and saw the Ultraman, live shows. Right. And I got to see all the just herds of children running to go see Ultraman. It was one of the most touching things I've ever seen. And the thought that character and all the variations on that character have inspired that much positivity and that many positive dreams and has given kids a role model. And the fact that all of that's been mostly self-contained within Japan for going on 60 years now is starting to finally bleed over into the West. And there's a chance. And when I say chance, I mean, it's happening. We're seeing it happen now, that positivity and that tangible goodness and that feeling of hope and good role model, all that good stuff, all the stuff that Ultraman represents can come over here and do its magic for not just longtime fans like us, but for little ones who are growing up and need a hero. I don't have words for how wonderful I find that.
I mean, I've heard people say that because Ultraman Z started airing on YouTube. That was the first time the Super I had tried that. I'm sure that was a little bit of a risk, and I think it was right before. Was it 2019? So, or was it 2020? Okay, so but people were, especially once quarantine was happening with COVID and all that, people were really gravitating toward it, and I think it was what people needed.
He's inherently hopeful. The character is inherently hopeful, and it's at once a very simple notion, but a very, very complex one. And I've never found a character anywhere else on the planet, because I don't think there is one, that takes the complexities and simpleness of hopefulness and boils them down into one character, as well as Ultraman does.
Wow, look at you guys.
Yeah.
Smart and everything. Wow.
We spend way too much time.
We try. We try. And we spend way too much time thinking about these things.
We think about it. We write about it. I wrote an article for Kaiju Ramen magazine about Ultraman, and it was more of an overview of the entire series. I'd love to actually do like a deep dive into thematics and symbolism and what Ultraman means for one of these days. Maybe,
that's our next G-Fest presentation, Danny.
There it is. There it is.
Ultraman Connection. We're starting a whole new section of the site devoted to that sort of thing.
Sign me up.
I'm in. I will read it. If you need some extra people to write for it,
fantastic.
I could die happy. That would make me so happy.
we pay in cheese sandwiches, but
there are worse things.
Listen. I'll take a stale cheese sandwich to write your Ultraman Connection.
Seriously, email me, anyone who would like to contribute anything to the site. Just email me.
Most of us in this call, actually, Michael, if you want to give a little bit of a pitch for this, we are all involved with Kaiju Ramen magazine. So if you ever want to send anything to us, like if you have a press release or something that you would like published, or if you yourself would like to contribute to the magazine in some fashion, we would love to have you. We'd love to collaborate.
Fantastic.
We're kind of an up and coming magazine, and we're hoping to gain some more notoriety in the tokusatsu sphere.
We are.
That's a really good pitch, Michael. Thank you. What he said was correct. We started in 2020 as a response to another large kaiju focused magazine that was going through some issues, I will say, just to be polite. But it really is. It's turned into this really great outlet for fans that love this genre, that love Henshin heroes, that love kaiju, that love all the things in between, to really write about and discuss these franchises. And Jeff, I wasn't going to do any shameless plugs with you here, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you for your contact information, because Kaiju Ramen, we would love to work with you at some point. Maybe have you write some art, maybe have you write something for us, or do an interview. We would love to do that.
Nathan has my email. But any fan who wants to follow me. I'm at Jeff_Gomez on Twitter. And that's a lot of, Ultraman posting, but I post about the other things that I work on as well as a producer.
Sure.
You can jump on my Facebook page, Jeff Gomez. And if you're a professional, LinkedIn is great because
I'm on LinkedIn. And just to show you how much love we have given Ultraman, this is the cover of the latest issue.
Oh, look at that! Oh,
yep, and that is Legendary Goji versus Shin Ultraman. That was done by our friend Rebecca Hudgens.
I wish I can comment on that.
The theme. Well, the theme for that issue, Jeff, was East versus West. So there's a reason why we chose Shin Ultraman versus Legendary Godzilla, as sort of an East meets West, or East versus West type issue, because that I don't think that got explored very much in other written media. And it turned out to be a really fun issue. We're looking forward to getting it in the hands of folks to read that. But it's going to be really, really fun, and we're very proud of the artwork that our friend Rebecca did for this. It's beautiful.
Fantastic.
It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah, just thought I would share that with everybody. But thank you once again for joining us, Jeff. It's been a pleasure and an honor, and we will be in touch. I can't wait to work with you some more.
Nathan, Damon, Michael, Dan, thank you so much.
Dan. Jeff,
this was a pleasure, Jeff. Thank you so much, man.
This was an honest a delight, an absolute delight. Thank you so much for what you do.
I got verklempt a little bit with that speech. Oh my gosh.
Danny is always good.
It was great.
I guess so. But sincerely, from me and everyone here, and I'm sure I speak for an entire continent's worth of Ultraman fans when I say thank you for what you've done and the significant role you've played in helping to give our hero a second home in the United States.
Thank you so much.
He's long deserved it, and we've been looking forward to welcoming him here. So it's been fun.
Come to Ultraman Connection. Registration is free, and watch all the new cool stuff.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff.
Talk soon.
All right, bye.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Monster Island Film Vault, a podcast produced and hosted by Nate Marchand. If you want to join the discussion and be heard on the show, we'd love to hear from you. So email us at feedback@monsterislandfilmvault.com. Our website is monsterislandfilmvault.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Monster Island Film Vault, and on Twitter, where our handle is @TheMonsterIsla1. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, and TikTok. Follow Jimmy from NASA on Twitter @NASAJimmy, and our many other colorful characters using the links in the show notes. The podcast logo was created by Tyler Souls from TylerDrawsComics.com. Our theme song is Wanderer on the Offensive, live edit by B33J, Sarax, Juan Madrono, and Nonsensical Lexus, which is a remix of Counterattack Battle with the Colossus and The Opened Way Battle with the Colossus by Kootani from the video game Shadow of the Colossus. All film and audio clips belong to their respective copyright holders, and no infringement is intended or implied. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and or Podchaser to spread the word about the show. You can also support us by joining MIFV Max on Patreon. The Monster Island Film Vault is a Moonlighting Ninjas media production. Sayonara!